And we are live. Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing today? I am your host, Sir Random Guy. Welcome to Media Day number 3. How is everybody doing today? Well, this has been one insane offseason. We are officially now 3 more days until the UFL kickoff season. I am excited, but yet also nervous for different reasons. But, anyways, let's get this started and let's begin. You know, this UFL season has been something for sure. I mean, there's there's been this offseason was pretty much like a shift of tectonic plates, and at least I want to get it started with the person that kind of started with everything this past offseason, and that is Mike Riopol. For people who haven't been up to the UFL news for this past offseason or been living underneath the rock, well, Mike Riopol is now the majority owner of the UFL, even though we still have Daniel Garcia and Dwayne Johnson still involved with operations. But Mike Riopol this offseason has been uh, very overall involved with this offseason, whether with the teams or whether with the teams, coaches, roster construction, new markets, and so much more. And I feel like, for whether for better or for worst, I feel like he at least has done a lot of things to kind of give us this whole for sure that the UFL is going to stay, not only just for this season, but hopefully beyond in the future. And you also, and it seems like he has the whole passion about the UFL, even though some of the moves we have seen so far could be questionable, which I feel like that's good to question. But hopefully, sometime within after this UFL season ends, I could be saying, hey, I cannot wait to see what happens next year, more than just thinking, is this league going to stay here in 2027 and beyond? But yeah, but first, the first thing we got to start with is the teams in the UFL. And of course, for this offseason, we have experienced a shift in the new teams in terms of structure. Starting with, um, we have 3 teams that got relocated to new markets. Starting with the Memphis Showboats, who are now got relocated and rebranded to the now new Louisville Kings. I'll get more to the teams in a moment, but then the Orlando Storm, uh, who used to be from the San Antonio, or used to be the San Antonio Brahmas, and of course, finally, the team that made the UFL Championship this past year, and the Michigan Panthers, are no longer, at least as of right now. There's still a chance they could make it sometime with the next year or so, but the Michigan Panthers are no longer here, and they are now relocated and rebranded as the Columbus Aviators. Now, a couple more things too is the Arlington Renegades of last year are no longer the Arlington Renegades. They are now the Dallas Renegades. They're back to being named Dallas, like their team in 2020. And not only that, we also got the Houston Gamblers back after being the Roughnecks for a couple of seasons. And now I'm going to break down all the 8 teams and their coaching staff and their roster, starting with the DC, the DC Defenders, the defending UFL champions. This, they of course, excuse me, they of course, had an interesting offseason. That's them, but I feel like as of right now, they are the most complete team going into this season. They brought back Jordan Teamu. Abram Smith is back at running back. Of course, there's some key players like Cornell Powell, Ty Scott. If were there, but they brought in Kiki Kuti, who used to be a draft pick from the Houston Texans a while back, and then of course some of the key defensive players like Darren Roberson and DeAndre Baker are back in their positions at back in the position. So I feel like this is something to look at overall. And of course, let me mention the coaching staff. The coaching staff has been retained for this one. Of course, Shannon Harris will be the head coach after starting as an interim head coach this past year when Barrow left last season, and now he is now out of the interim label, and he will be the UFL head coach for this season, along with offensive coordinator Fred Keiss and defensive coordinator Greg Williams' son. I keep forgetting his name, but Greg Williams' kid will also be the defensive coordinator this season as well after Greg Williams left early in the season last year. Now, the next team I want to get to is the Columbus Aviators. This is one of the new teams or the new market teams in the UFL this offseason, starting with their QB position. They will have Jalen McClendon. If you guys remember him from the Houston Roughnecks last year, he brought a spark to that Houston offense during the second half stretch and got the team to a 5-5 record at the end of the year, which I feel like, which was kind of strange that he did not go back to the Houston Roughnecks, but they also. But I'll get to them in a minute. But their backup quarterbacks will contain Jalen Morton, who for people that remember in the USFL, he was the Stallions' third string quarterback for some time now. And of course, you have Aiden Sayan to be their QB3, and then the running back group will have Toa, who was the Michigan Panthers back last year, Jacondre White and Jacondre White, who was in the Stallions roster, and John Lovett. And then for some key players for the wide receiver, you have Kiki Chisholm, who was on the Houston Roughnecks for a good minute there last year too. And of course, you have Gunnar Oaks in the tight end position. Then of course some of the Michigan Panthers players from last year, unfortunately, like Frank Ginda or Le'Veon Bell, and of course one of the Nakua brothers, Samson Nakua, is no longer on, and Kai Nakua are no longer on the roster, unfortunately. So, but I feel like this is a brand new roster, and their head coach is led by Tad Ginn Jr., who, of course, if you guys remember him being in the NFL for such a long time, and of course him being a guy who's from Ohio State, because I feel like part of Mike Repol's mission is try to get this team to market a lot, and I feel like bringing in Ted Ginn Jr. does fit the bill. Although he doesn't really have much head coaching experience, but at least the coaching staff he has on his roster does hopefully fit. His offense coordinator being Todd Haley, who's been in the spring football game for a couple seasons in 22 when he was the head coach for the Tampa Bay Bandits, and in 23 when he was the head coach for the Memphis Showboats. And I'm kind of mixed on that hire, to be honest with you, but I mean this team could potentially be a decent squad on paper if they could live it up. I kind of wished it was Mike Nolan's team a little bit, but I mean it is what it is at this point. Um, what else? And then of course we have. Give me a minute. Which, of course, and also defensive coordinator will be Captain Munnerlin, who's had a 10-year NFL career as a cornerback with the Carolina Panthers, Minnesota Vikings. So I feel like at least he could bring in a good leadership role, and hopefully the Columbus Xavier does well. Next one we got is the Dallas Renegades, a team that remarketed Dallas, and this year. Oh yeah, and I guess let me forget to mention to the past two teams. Of course, the defenders will still play in Audi Field, while the Columbus Aviators, if you want to catch a game this season, they will be playing at historic. They will be playing at Historic Park Um, do we? I Historic Crew Stadium. My bad. Historic Crew Stadium. They will play there. So that'll be it. Meanwhile, the Dallas Renegades, they this season they're not going to be playing at Choctaw Stadium where they've been for the past few seasons, even in their 2020 season. They will be playing at Ford. They will be at Ford Stadium, if I recall. Or they will be playing in the FC Dallas Stadium. Toyota Stadium, my bad. They'll be playing at Toyota Stadium this this season, not at Choctaw Stadium where they have been for the past few years. So now, so hopefully it's a change of scenery for them. And of course, let's bring in the roster to them. Of course, Luis Perez is back for a third full season with the Houston Roughnecks. Sorry, the Dallas Renegades. I am messing up right now. But with the Dallas Renegades, he is back for a third full season. He's of course been the quarterback since the 20 midway towards the 2023 season, and he's been the best. He's been the best quarterback for them, and of course he is known as the Spring King for sure. Then of course let me give you some key players like running back Day Day Hunter, wide receiver Denzel Mims, who was with the Battlehawks last year, and of course you remember him being the Jets wide receiver from that season as well. You also have Seth Green because South Cannell is now a Cleveland Brown in the tight end position, and I like to mention Willie Terrell III. Taco Charlton is back for another season in Dallas. You have Donald Payne, who's been a veteran there for the Renegades too. So I feel like this team is definitely going to be something, and their head coach will be led by Newsemeyer. Forgive me if I'm. Hopefully, I'm saying that correctly. News at Hire by Rick Newshire as the head coach, defensive coordinator Milk Gilhammer, and offensive coordinator Noe Mazzoni. But I'll tell you this: Rick Newshire is familiar with the spring football game. He was the head coach for the Arizona Hotshots back in 2019 before the season shut down early on because of funding. But I feel like he can bring in the same culture as he did with Bob Stoops, and hopefully finally get this team back to the playoffs for the first time since 2023, and maybe feel like this team could actually go over the hump. Up next, uh, we got the Houston Gamblers, which this team is kind of a big question mark for me. That is a big question mark. I mean, their head coach is Kevin Sumlin, who was the Houston Gamblers head coach back in 2022 and only got the team to a 3-7 record. Hopefully, tides could change around this time around. Their offensive coordinator is still Eric Price, who was the offensive coordinator for the past couple seasons as the Houston Roughnecks head coach. And and right now, their quarterbacks are containing is Nolan Henderson, who is confirmed to be the starting quarterback. Just in week one, it was just announced, and Hunter Deckers will be QB2. There was a competition between Nolan Henderson, Hunter Deckers, and Donovan Smith, but Donovan Smith is no longer on the team now because the team just signed Taulia Tagovailoa, who is also known as Tua's Tagovailoa's brother. He has spent some time with Kevin Sumlin during his during Tagovailoa's college days in Maryland. So maybe there is a chance that he could start at some point this year. But right now, Nolan Henderson and Hunter Deckers are going to get some snaps apparently for week one. But Nolan Henderson is the starting quarterback, which I mean, he's shown some flashes, but I'm not sure if he could sustain those long enough to be the QB1. And of course, you have running back Kirk Merritt, who has spent time before in spring football. You have Justin Hall coming back for another season. Joshua Kirkland, who's been with Wade Phillips's teams with the Houston Roughnecks in 23 and the San Antonio Brahmas in 24 and 25, but now he is with the Houston Gamblers this time after the team disbanded. Tight ends is going to be George Horace Spilvey, Armani Rogers, and Cam Sutton. Let's see how that goes. Then, of course, your D line is some key players on the D line. You have Malik Fisher, who was on the defensive side of the ball with the DC Defenders, which hopefully he can put some more in it. And Damon Arnett is back with Houston once again, and he actually had a pretty solid season last year. I know he's known for his time with the Las Vegas Raiders, but hopefully he can come back and play a pretty good spot on corner. And of course, I feel like Nico Bolton is another player to mention on his roster as well. So keep an eye out for some of these players. But Houston, on paper, this could be a very interesting roster to watch. But can Kevin Sumlin redeem himself after last time with his first stint with the Houston Gamblers? And this season, the Houston Gamblers are going to be playing at Shell Energy Stadium, so which is another soccer stadium for a lot of you know in the Houston area. So keep an eye out. They're no longer playing at either Rice Stadium or TDECU Stadium, which is home of the University of Houston Cougar Stadium. Next one of the other three new teams in the UFL, which is the Louisville Kings, which their head coach is led by Chris Redman, who was a former Louisville quarterback for that team at the time. Uh, who was the quarterback for Louisville for a time bit, and of course he's been the backup job for the Ravens and Falcons this past year, which unfortunately he doesn't really have much coaching experience, but maybe he could surprise us. Of course, we still need to mention a bit of his coaching staff as well. Um, which that will be with offensive coordinator Steve Logan, who has at least had time in the A, with his most recent experience was with the AAF back in 2019. And of course, we have Jamie Sharper, defensive coordinator, who at least uh, at least with them has experience with the UFL as well, and he was part of that DC Defenders uh uh, that DC Defenders roster, or I guess coaching staff specifically as the linebackers and special teams coach. So hopefully he could bring that defensive mindset to DC. And let's go mention some of the key players on this roster. You have quarterback Jason Beam, which a lot of people are starting to like from him. Well, I'm still unsure what he's going to do in the spring football level. Then we have Chandler Rogers and then Coach Perry as the other two QBs, but we'll see how they go. Then we have former Pittsburgh Steelers running back Benny Snell going to be in this roster, just to name. Then, of course, we have Memphis Showboats Jonathan Allen, Isaiah Winstead are coming back, who are going to stay with the Louisville Kings there too. And we also mentioned also another spring football player in that 2023 Defenders roster, Lucky Jackson, is back playing spring football, and I feel like he is a pretty good piece to have on that roster. And they also just recently, it wasn't on the final roster, but they brought in Lynn Bowden Jr. as well to the Louisville Kings roster. So maybe there's something in there, but hopefully, but with this team overall, I'm pretty unsure. This team is feels very new, but I mean, I guess I could mention Keaton Ellis and Kenny Robinson as well. at the safety position, and of course, former Jets fifth round pick Bryce Hall is on the cornerback roster too. But it's still this is probably one of my more bigger question marks. Is this team going to be like we've seen with the Memphis Showboats / Bay Bandits? They just haven't gotten the job done since their time in spring football. Of course, this is a third rebranding for them, but it's just those moments you're just got to be thinking: is this team real? Is this team going to be losing? Who knows? Then, then finally, the third of the newer branded teams, we got the Orlando Storm, which that will be. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention with the Louisville Kings, they will be playing at I. Uh, they will be playing at Lynn Family Stadium this Friday, going against the Birmingham Stallions. So I'll get the Stallions really in a short minute there. But they will be playing on Friday as the debut kickoff game. So let's see how that goes. Next one. But let me go talk about a bit their of their coaching staff. Let me talk about a bit on but let me go back to the Orlando Storm. Sorry, just getting distracted right now. Anyways, so this coaching staff is going to be led by former St. Louis Battlehawks head coach Anthony Beck. Since he has spent time with Florida, they basically moved them to Orlando for this team. I feel like this is a pretty decent hiring, but we have seen overall these past couple seasons or 3 seasons about him making it over the hump in the Battlehawks. It shows that he can coach really good in the regular season and showing he can take a team to somewhere. But soon as either they get eliminated out of the playoffs, even despite having a winning record, or like they lose in the most crucial games, especially the past couple seasons. They got bounced in back-to-back seasons in the XFL Championship game. But hopefully him and in the Orlando Storm team could finally maybe they will find something for him. But their defensive coordinator will be Donnie Abram, followed by their co-offensive coordinator Mark Colombo and other co-offensive coordinator Colin Thompson. So maybe there's going to be some chance for some play calling here and there. Maybe, and we'll see how that goes. Meanwhile, their current roster right now, their QB situation is interesting. We have former Browns quarterback Dorian Thompson Robinson, which yes, Dorian Thompson Robinson, which yes, I'll remember him during the time of the Browns. Yes, his time in the Browns wasn't as great, but maybe him being in UFL for a change of scenery could be something that he needs. And I feel like he has that build that Anthony Becht has known for. So maybe he could be a great quarterback in the UFL this season and maybe be back on the roster. But their QB2 is Jack Plummer, and their QB3 is Hank Beckmeyer. Then running backs, you have San Antonio Brahmas standing out Joshua Corbin at leading the running back group, which I'm excited to see. And some key players in the wide receiver position. We have KJ Hamler, who was the former second round pick to the Denver Broncos in 2020. Chris Rowland, who was a standout for the DC Defenders this past year. Surprised that the Defenders didn't keep him, but I mean, it makes sense that it's hard to keep a lot of good roster players too. Then at defense, you also have Isaiah Buggs, who's been in the spring league game for some time now. You have cornerbacks like Lamar Jackson. Yes, the cornerback Lamar Jackson, not the quarterback. So I feel like this roster definitely has something to show, and with Anthony Becht's coaching history, probably being one of the better coaches in the UFL, could lead the team like the Orlando Storm to the playoffs. But with these new roster pieces, how well is going to gel together, we will find out. Maybe he can make the playoffs, maybe who's not. But yeah. And then the second to last team I'm going to be talking about is the St. Louis Battlehawks. St. Louis had a very interesting offseason. I mean, good news is this team is still playing at the Dome. So all the fans could be loud as they want until they get a first round exit. Just kidding, just kidding. Uh, but they no longer. But of course, like I mentioned earlier, Anthony Beck is no longer on the Battlehawks coaching staff. It is led by their wide receivers coach in Ricky Pearl, who actually has ties to St. Louis since he was a wide receiver with the St. Louis Rams, involving the greatest show on turf at the time. So I feel like there's at least maybe some connection there, and I feel like maybe he can be a guy could lead his team to it. But the quarterbacks leading this roster, and they announced the starting quarterback for this team, and that is Brandon Silvers is going to be the QB1 heading to week one, which he has spent time in the XFL with the Houston Roughnecks, and his performances, he's shown he can be a decent quarterback, but I feel like he has tend to be turnover prone at times when he's been a starter, but hopefully maybe he could clean it up and lead the St. Louis Battlehawks to relevance once again. Meanwhile, their other QBs are Harrison Frost and Michael Pratt. And the wide receiver course, of course, Hakeem the Dream Butler is back once again, leading the wide receiver core. Of course, you have Ja'Cory Pearson, who's been with the Battlehawks roster as well, which I feel like is a great part. And Gary Jennings is back on that team for another season after spending some quick stint during the time with the Stallions. So hopefully that could work. Then you have but the one thing about the roster so far that's interesting that they have one tight end, at least currently listed as Tyler Neville, which I mean there will be roster updates pretty soon, but as of right now, this is currently the 50-man starting roster at the moment. So yeah. Then, but right now the only thing I guess one thing to also keep an eye out as well is will this be the last season under the dome? Because there's been some rumors that the St. Louis Battlehawks might move to the St. Louis Football Club soccer stadium. But I mean that's probably heavily rumored right now. But I feel like it's those ones is uh probably that's just probably something on the table. But I don't think that's really anything too official. So but yeah, next one. But I guess also not to mention in the defensive side of the ball, back to the St. Louis roster. On the defensive side of the ball, you also have Carlos Davis, who's been a standout with the Birmingham Stallions for the past few seasons he's been there. Then of course you have Peter Tumananu, who's been a wrecking machine during both his time in with the Las Vegas Vipers and his past two seasons in St. Louis. Of course, you have Travis Feeney returning as well. So I feel like this roster definitely has a chance to compete, but I feel like depends on how we're going to see Brandon Silvers because like I mentioned earlier, he's been a bit turnover prone. So hopefully there is that. Then of course, the last team I will mention here and that will be my Birmingham Stallions, which I feel like this has been the most crazy offseason team for out of all the 8 teams that have been here that are now here. I feel like the Birmingham Stallions have the craziest offseason because first they were heavily rumored to be relocated at some point this past offseason. Um, and thinking the Stallions are no more. Then Mike Repoll said if they were able to get 5,000 people in season ticket holders, the Stallions are saved. Then about a week later, Mike Repoll announced the Stallions are going to stay another season at Protective Stadium. So that is great, and I feel like this is the most crucial season for the Stallions. So hopefully we don't get relocated. And and of course, the biggest news of all, Skip Holtz decided to leave the Stallions this past December, and I feel like just to bring in a new era. I think my Repo wanted to bring in a new era of teams, mean a new era, and our new head coach for the Birmingham Stallions for the 5th season this year is A.J. McCarron. For a lot of people that know, he was the Battlehawks head coach, and of course, also famously known he was famously known at the time as University of Alabama's quarterback for sure, and of course, people remember him for the playoff game back in 2016 with the Cincinnati Bengals. Hopefully the lead team. Meanwhile, but with the roster we have, let's talk about also his coaching staff with it as well. Which wait, sorry, his coaching staff as well uh with defensive coordinator uh Kevin Sure with Kevin Sure, who actually has spent time with, I think if I remember, he no, I don't think it was him. It was someone else. Tyler Stiski, offensive coordinator, will be the offense coordinator this year. Todd Watson as the running backs coach, and Cody Latimer, who actually spent time with the San Antonio Brahmas, is now our wide receivers coach. The just a key player to look out for too. And our roster, I feel like it's pretty stacked overall, despite what the coaching staff concerns will be. But I think this roster is overall very stacked. You have Matt Corral returning for a third season and is announced to be the Week 1 starter going into 2026, and hopefully he could finally be in this stage where if he actually plays at a very great level, he could be our QB1 for the entire season. Meanwhile, in the running back group, we don't have CJ Marbell anymore. We don't have Daquandre White on the roster, so now we have Anthony McFarland is back, who spent a very good amount of time with in spring football last year. I think I remember he was with the San Antonio Brahmas, and we have Snoop Connor on the running back position as well. Maybe the wide receiver room, we have some former NFL players like the Laviska Shenault and John Ross came out of retirement. But also in the wide receiver room, we have Jaden Mickens, who was with the DC Defenders last year. Deion Kane's back for a third season with the Stallions, which I think he has proved himself to be the wide receiver one for sure. Then you have Justin Ross, David, who was with the Memphis Showboats. Marlon Williams is back with the Stallions, and of course you have Jabray Barber, which I feel like this wide receiver room is just stacked. Of course, yeah, our tight end room, because since Jay Sternberger is no longer on the roster. He decided to retire. We have Tyler Davis, and you have Jordan Thomas, who is back with the Stallions once again for a third season or fourth season, I remember. Then our O line consists of Jackson Cartman, Tyrese Robinson, Andrew Morton, Zach Johnson, Armani Taylor, Noah Henderson, Noah Johnson. Then, of course, our D line will consist of Armani Blitzo, TJ Carter, Isaiah Coe, Ricky Corella. But also, I feel like some key names on the linebacker where you have Tate Crowder and Kiava Tanzino, who's been with the Stallions for the past couple seasons, and he's back with the third season. Of course, cornerback Stephen Gilmore is back on the Stallions roster, who is Stephon Gilmore's brother. Uh, Mark Goodrich is on the roster for sure. And we have, of course, Jojo Tillery back on the Stallions for the fifth season, who's been one of the original Stallions members in the modern spring football era. He's been on the Stallions roster for a very long time, which I'm kind of proud of it. But that is the Stallion. That is all the entire 8 teams roster. To get at least some things in mind, to get a clear roster, you can look up on the UFL app to see the full roster, get your thoughts and opinions on it, get your ideas. So there is that. Hello, hello. All right, all right. I am officially back. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. But, anyways, uh, those are the salaries. Those is the rosters for every UFL team and some key players to look out for. Now, next one, I am going to mention. I am going to mention this. Each of the opening UFL teams will each UFL team has a halftime show this year for each of their home openers. So that's something I am going to drop right here. And just give me a second. And here is the picture. So starting with the Louisville Kings, since they will be the home opener for the entire UFL season, they're going to be performed by Russell Dickerson, and you have the Birmingham Sounds. When their opener begins on April 18th, they will have Gucci Mane on their halftime performance during that time. Then, with the Aviators home opener, will be on April 3rd. It will be performed by Gavin DeGraw, Ty Myers, who will open in week 1 for the Dallas Renegades for halftime. Then for the home opener for the DC Defenders, or for DC Defenders halftime performer, will be Whale, and the halftime performance for the home opener for the St. Louis Battlehawks on March 28th will be Nelly and the St. Lunatics, so that will be an interesting show to watch. And then for the Orlando Storm's halftime performance, this one's interesting for its home opener. It will be performed by DJ Khaled. Anyways, uh, but yeah, he will be performing this year's halftime show. So for the home opener for the Orlando Storm, so if you want to be interested, there you go. And finally, the Houston Gamblers will be on April 5th when they have their home opener. It'll be performed by Ludacris himself, which that is a very interesting name to pull off. But I think I'm overall excited that this, at least with the halftime shows, gets more people entertained, seats on butts. These are very well known name artists, so I cannot wait to see what happens there. But yeah, now next one, I want to talk about some of the key rules that's gonna happen this UFL season. And here we go. Some of these are new, some of these are different. The first one we have to talk about for these UFL rules is we have the 4-point field goal. So now, if you have kicked a 60 plus yard field goal in the UFL, it will not be worth 3 points. It will be a total of 4 points. So that is something to look out for. You better hope any of these kickers can kick so far right there. Then, of course, the UFL decided to go with a college rule where it's now going to be a 1 foot inbounds, which I feel like if they want to stay in if I feel like that rule, I'm kind of mixed about because I get it, college rules, but also at the same time, if you're trying to get into the NFL, I feel like this should be a start for adjusting to be in the 2 foot rule now. Now you have of course, you have the red zone penalties. Um, Yeah, red zone penalties where the UFL reinstituted the rule at half the distance to the goal. Penalties committed in the red zone, which reverts back to the NFL current rules. The one rules that I feel like is pretty controversial, pretty divided, not only in the UFL, but it's been talked amongst in the NFL as well. And that is the elimination of the tush push. We have seen a lot in the NFL as of recently, and it's been a conversation whether or not to be eliminated, whether or not to ban the tush push, and we are going to see how this goes this season because I feel like for me, I honestly think banning the tush push is a bit dumb. I get it; it's like it gets overplayed and it gets very boring when it happens a lot. But I feel like it's also at the same time it's a play that if you don't know how to stop it, which it has been stopped, it's not a unstoppable play now. It's shown it has been able to be stopped. So so I honestly think banning the tush push just feels very dumb. But I understand why they did it though. Punting. Punting's this one's a rule now, which no punting inside the 50-yard line. So if you are in the opposing team's side already, you cannot punt, which I feel like this is supposed to incentivize more field goals, so it could be more entertaining. But honestly, I feel like this could be a rule that could bite them in the butt if they, let's just say, decide to take a few mini delay game penalties and could just be like decide to punt right there. Who knows? Maybe that could be a that's probably going to be a move that I could see them doing. Meanwhile, overtime. Overtime's been pretty much the same thing for the past few years in spring football or in the XFL and the UFL. Um, in the USFL, where you get 3 attempts, and if those 3 attempts are still in the tie, then of course it'll be going to sudden death. Then, then our point, but now the extra point conversions have tweaked a little bit. So the 1 point conversion has now reverted back to a field goal. So it's no longer just a 2 yard line play. No longer just a 2 yard line play, which that will be now in the 2 point conversion, which the 2 point conversion play we used to be originally in the five, but now I feel like it gets more people to incentivize that in the 2 yard line. I'm fine with it. And with the 3 point conversion, which has been there for a bit now, it moves from the 10 yard line to the 8 yard line, which I feel like that's probably again still shows a bit more incentive on the 3 point conversion when needed to. So I feel like that's pretty good. And of course, we have the standard coin toss, so that's fine. New kickoff rules, which we're pretty much back to the XFL kickoff rules, which originally we are with the XFL kickoff rules, which originally we had the standard old NFL kickoff rules, but now here we are. But those are some of the rules to be talked about this year. Now, I am gonna go with my both my predictions and my power rankings going into week one. So, here we go. Starting at 8th place, I'll be doing, I guess, starting at 8th place on my team. I got the Louisville Kings. I am not really high on the Kings as maybe some people are, especially with quarterback JC being on the roster. But I am not sure what to feel with this team. It feels like there's a team of like a lot more question marks than really any hype. I mean, but I could be really wrong about this, but I have the Kings going 2-8 this year. I am not sure about this roster. I don't feel confident with Chris Redmond as a head coach. I could be wrong, but who knows? But Kings at 2-8, and they are of course 8th in my power rankings. Then at seventh place and seventh in my power rankings, I got the Houston Gamblers. This one, I feel like at least I know where I'm going with this team. At least I kind of get a better idea. I feel like I don't think that the defense is bad. I honestly think the defense is going to be a good part of this Houston Gamblers team. But this every year during the Houston Gamblers era, as of I know, the offense has always been a pretty big problem. It's either with quarterback issue. There's not really offensive play calling. You could just name something I would also believe, but it's just this roster. I mean, the offensive side of the ball is just not really giving me much thing about with the quarterback position with Mike Nolan Henderson and Hunter Deckers. I mean, maybe Talia Tagovailoa could be the guy who could lead the team. Who knows? But I really don't know what to really make of this Houston offense. But their defense definitely does give me potential. But for that, I really think it might be similar to what we get with Kevin Sumlin back his 2022 time at the Houston Galmores. And I think they're gonna go 3-7. At number 6, I think this one I might get a lot of flack for it, but they are number 5 in my power rankings because I think this team has potential. But I got the Orlando Storm. Yeah, I know this is probably gonna I'm gonna get a few looks at this, but I have them going 4-6 this year, and I think it's not because I don't trust. It's not because of Anthony Becht in them. I am just thinking is how this roster's chemistry is going to work together. I think this could remind me like the 20. This could remind me maybe the vibe of like the 24 Renegades, where this team could definitely be something, but then they kind of combust in some games. I feel like with uncertainty of how this roster is going to play out, with even though there is some few key players I do like, it's a matter of uncertainty, and I have them going at 4-6, even though I feel like they could be a better team on paper. So, yeah. At number 5, at fifth place, and they are 6 in my, even though there are 6 in our roster. At 5-5, I got the Columbus Aviators. The Aviators are such an interesting team since it doesn't feel like they're at all really like the Michigan Panthers. They feel like a brand new team. And I feel like hopefully they could bring in an audience here in Columbus this season. But I think this is just again with a more of an uncertainty with the roster with the coaching staff at the helm. Even though Ted Ginn Jr. seems like he's already a likable character on the roster, seems like a good players coach, but I feel like the issue might be with Todd Haley, which I feel like a lot of people kind of forget, even though people are kind of being like, oh, he's on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be fine. I just don't know if he's going to cause game. I like Jalen McClendon. I feel like he can definitely bring a spark to this Aviators offense, and hopefully some of the players could do something. And I could be wrong. I feel like I could be wrong with this, but I really don't know what to feel about this team. And it's just kind of like I feel like they're like the most 50-50 team out there. Hence, I put them at 5-5. At number 4, and now we have the top 4, which another rule this year. I guess not a rule, but another thing that changed is the playoff format. We no longer have conferences or divisions this year. So the USFL conference and the XFL conference, no longer. Every team, all 8 teams are on the same league. So now instead of just the 2 best teams per division, it's just the 4 best teams overall. No more divisions. So representing the 4th place spot, I guess the 4th seed in the playoffs this year, I have the Arlington Renegades. And you know what? I guess before I continue on, Lightning, for people that have watched my streams or not, Lightning Jr., a good friend of mine, has sent me his predictions for his UFL season year, and who knows, maybe he comes in as a surprise at the end. Probably not. I'm not sure, but uh, but here is but here are his predictions, and I'm not sure if that his top 4. But I'll start with this 4th team, and that is the Orlando Storm, which I get why he's high on them, but I'm more of an uncertain guy. But yeah, he has the Orlando Storm as one of his 4 teams in there. I have the Dallas Renegades, and I think the Dallas Renegades, I do like the hire and Rick Newsom hire, and I think he is a good head coach to lead this team to the spring football playoffs. It's just a matter of time is whether these results go somewhere, and hopefully can the Renegades not blow games at the most crucial time, because that's been a theme for the past couple seasons in the Bob Stoops era. At number 3, in my third seed spot, going to play the second seed game, the 2-3 seed game. It will be the St. Louis Battlehawks at 6-4. I think at least with, even though Anthony Becht is gone, I think Ricky Proehl at least has been on the St. Louis Battlehawks roster coaching staff for a bit now. So I think there's not really going to be much of a drop off in terms of what the coaching is going to be. And especially, I forgot to mention earlier, the defensive coordinator is Corey Chamberlain, who was the defensive coordinator for the Stallions the past couple years, which I think it is going to be a pretty good spot for him, especially since he brought his boy Carlos Davis on the team. But I feel like it's just more of how are we going to see this team perform without Anthony Becht. Let's see how this goes. But I have him at 6-4, representing the third seed. And I do think this team is definitely going to be a team to look out for. And hopefully, can Brandon Silvers not be turnover prone as much? If not, we'll see how the other QBs perform at this level. Then at number 2, going at 7-3, I have, despite AJ McCarron being our head coach, and it was being a bit controversial, I have the Birmingham Stallions going as the 2 seed. They're going to go back to the playoffs for the 5th year in a row. We are going to go try to get ourselves the 4th championship in 5 years. We are going back, baby. Go Stallions. Matt Corral, you better be the man. You better be the man. We got this. Stallions are the way. I feel like this roster just feels very stacked. I feel like, despite losing some key pieces this past year, I think the Stallions are a team that are definitely going to compete. I think this roster is still going to be at a pretty high level, as we expect them the last few seasons now. Then at number 1, of course, at number 1, playing that I predict it will be Renegades versus Defenders in the first round of the playoffs. This is going to be a fun one. I think the Defenders have shown since they have retained their coaching. I feel like this is a team that at least have retained a good amount of their players. I feel like this is a team that I feel like not only they retained a good amount of their players, I feel like this team feels like the most complete out of the bunch. I feel like the chemistry is going to gel well, with Shannon Harris having another full season at his belt. With this Defenders roster, I think this team's definitely going to be an insane team to watch this year. And with Jordan Tiamu back for I believe the 4th season, with this 4th season under the Defenders, I think this team this team is definitely a good chance. This team definitely has a very good chance to repeat as champions. But those are my predictions. The Defenders versus Renegades, and Battlehawks versus Stallions. And with Lightning's team, the Lightning got the Renegades as his 3rd team. He has the Battlehawks as his 2nd team, and he has the Defenders as his 1st team. So I'm assuming he probably wants Defenders versus Storm and Battlehawks Renegades, which I feel like him snubbing the Stallions is something. But you know what? I can't wait to prove him wrong once again. So I can't wait for him to prove him wrong once again this year. But if I have to say my full-on power rankings, I have the Kings at 8, the 7 Gamblers, the 6 Aviators, the 5 the Storm, the 4 and pretty much 4 Renegades, 3 Battlehawks, 2 Stallions, and 1 Defenders. I feel like those are my rankings for this year for the power rankings. I felt like the only team that I feel like I could be proven wrong is both the Storm and the Aviators with it, but yes, that's what's going on. But you know what? Since we're at predictions, let me give out my week one game predictions this year. Uh, starting with the kickoff game. Starting with the kickoff game between the Birmingham Stallions traveling to Louisville. The battle of the horse teams. Mike Reapol, he's been known as the horseman. He's been known having horses in the Louisville sector for his horse races. And I feel like the Stallions, we got to do it. Stallions, this is the team. This is a game that we have to set a statement win. To set a statement to the Louisville Kings. This is it. This is it. And I will say the Birmingham Stallions, with the roster they have constructed, they are going to prove some doubters wrong. And we are going to win this game. Give me the Stallions winning 27 to 220. Up next, we got in our week one game, we got in our week one game on Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. We got the battle. We got a classic rivalry that's been here for the past few seasons. We have the DC Defenders taking on the St. Louis Battlehawks. This one's going to be a fun matchup to watch. It truly is going to be. It's truly going to be a fun game. The Defenders, the defending champs versus St. Louis Battlehawks, a playoff matchup, a rematch, and this team's been rivalry. The DC Defenders has been. I'll tell you this though, the Defenders have overall the better record, and the St. Louis Battlehawks only have 2 wins in their entire rivalry against the DC Defenders here. I think this one's going to be it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a close one here, folks. We're going to see how Ricky Prohl does in his debut as a UFL head coach. Maybe we see something last year where Shannon Harris pulls up a very big upset against the former defending champions Birmingham Stallions. So this is something to watch here, especially since this game's in St. Louis. But I am going to be safe here, and I will go with the DC Defenders winning this game and a very close matchup, winning 31 to 29. Up next, we got the Houston Gamblers versus the Dallas Renegades. This is going to be their third meetup as both of these franchises' existence. Despite the Houston Gamblers being the Houston Roughnecks for the past couple years. Third matchup, and they've been 1-1 in the series, and I feel like these games are oddly, weirdly close and low scoring. Both defenses are definitely going to come out to play in this game, and I feel like this might be a similar thing as we see last year, but I feel like if I have to feel like who better offense I should trust more, I feel like it's going to be the Dallas Renegades, and I think Dallas will win 16 to 8. I feel like this might be a low scoring game for the most part, and I think the Renegades are gonna pull off a win there at their new stadium in Toyota. Then the final game, which will be on Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, we will have the two new market teams in the Columbus Aviators and the Orlando Storm competing against each other. This one is tough. This is a tough game to gauge on, because these are two different teams with two different rosters that we haven't seen them play. So this one's a tough one to really pick out but I feel like if we're going based on experience in the head coaching position, I feel like you would have to give the edge to Anthony Becht, and he's been in the spring league game for a lot longer than Ted Ginn Jr. Even though they still have Todd Haley, who's been in the game, but I feel like I trust Anthony Becht more. So I think this might be low key, could be a weirdly game that could turn into a blowout real quick if the Columbus Aviators don't get it handled. But even though I still don't know who's both the starting quarterbacks on our roster is, it seems like that Jalen McClendon could be the starting quarterback, and Dorian Thompson Robinson is going to be the week one starter. But there hasn't been no announcements. I'm just going to double check as of right now before before I continue. And no, there hasn't been any other announcements on starting quarterbacks. I mean, so far, we know Jordan Tiamu will be the starting quarterback week one. Luis Perez will be the starting quarterback week one. Um, Matt Corral will be the starting quarterback week one. Nolan Henderson will be the starting quarterback for week one. So those are at least kind of the confirmed overall starters going into this game. Meanwhile, we still need a free. Oh yeah, and of course, St. Louis Battlehawks quarterback Brandon Silvers will be the starting quarterback. So we still don't know about the Aviators starting quarterback, the Storm starting quarterback, or the Kings starting quarterback. So basically, the five new teams that are that are that are basically the three new teams. Sorry, the three new teams are still needed for their QB1 situation, but I will go with the Orlando Storm winning this game. Uh, the Orlando Storm winning this game overall. I think this could be maybe a low key blowout here, but I'm gonna go say they win 27-17. I think that's I think I think that's probably what's gonna happen. But yes, this is this has been the UFL. I feel like I got most of everything covered. Of course, I probably might have pull out a few things. I guess maybe there's some things that I could look out for is that Mike Repold does want to bring in four more UFL teams by no later than 2030. So hopefully the Michigan Panthers could return as one of the markets because they were one of the surprising better markets despite playing at Ford Field. Uh, Maybe we're bringing a team back to LA or San Diego. Uh, I'm sure we bring a team to Camden, even though we have a team in Columbus already. So I'm not sure if that ship has sailed. The only thing we're still waiting on, I feel like, is who will host the UFL Championship game. Will it be St. Louis for a third year in a row? There's been uh, there's been rumors that maybe Audi Field finally becomes the team to host it this year, but it's still pretty unknown at this time, despite us getting closer to the new season in a few days. So yeah, but Uh, we will just see what happens then. Hopefully everyone has a very nice day today. I wish you all the good luck. Go Stallions, everyone. Who let me know in the comments if you are listening to this. Which team are you going to represent? Eh, Which team are you going to represent this year, and so forth. All right, y'all have a very good day. Peace out. A Town down.